Over the years, I have played pretty much every single game in the Harry Potter franchise, besides the handheld versions. However, there are two games that I could never bring myself to finish, those being Goblet of Fire and Philosopher's Stone on the PS2. That is, until today, and oh boy, do I have a lot to say about this one. Before we get started though, we need a quick history lesson. Most people believe that this game released at the same time as the movie. However, that was not the case. It was actually released in 2003, a whole 2 years after the film. This was probably a way for EA to still make money off the franchise, since there was a 1-year gap between Chamber of Secrets and Prisoner of Azkaban. That means that this game is heavily based off Chamber of Secrets, not the other way around. Since the developers didn't have to build a game from the ground up, and nobody was really asking or expecting this game, you would think they would spend more time improving what was already there, right? Right? We kick the game off in Diagon Alley, although you can't roam around the streets and shops like in the previous game, which is a bit of a shame. Instead, you're sent straight to Ollivander's to pick up your wand. Here, you have 3 to choose from, but of course, only one won't trash the place. I wonder how much Ollivander pays in insurance. I mean, every year kids come in and vandalise everything just because the wands are being little divas. Once we've got our wand, Ollivander takes us into the back room to show us how to use it. I don't have to be good at occlumency to know that you have a filthy, filthy mind. Get your head out of the gutter! Actually, before we learn our first spell, we're taught how to jump and shuffle in order to reach the Flipendo book. All stuff we've seen in the last game, and there's even a few beans to collect. Which, for whatever reason, they've decided to make Harry yell out the flavour.
Booger flavour.
This may be charming for the first couple of seconds, but considering how many beans there are in this game, it will make you grit your teeth rather quickly. Not to mention, when you collect more than one bean, which is often, Harry's audio will just start cutting to the next line immediately.
Booger flavour.
Also, think about this for a second. The whole gimmick with Bertie Bott's beans is that you don't know the flavour until it's in your mouth, and beans are a form of currency in this game. So that implies that Harry is eating them, spitting them out, putting them in his pocket, and handing Fred and George a sticky, clumpy, potentially hairy mess. You're an asshole, Harry. Eventually we get the Flipendo spell, and is it me, or does anyone else find the animation here a bit underwhelming compared to last time? I preferred it when the word stabbed you with knowledge. Ollivander then teaches us how to charge our spells, which is odd because Harry learns that in the following year. I personally would have left this out, so it felt like there was an actual progression in Chamber of Secrets. Plus, the whole charging thing is underutilised for anything that's not Flipendo or Lumos, so it's not like it would be missed. Finally, we reach Hogwarts and get this cutscene, which might be nice if it wasn't running below 25 frames per second. That's the one thing you'll see a lot throughout this game, by the way. Chamber of Secrets had some of these issues as well, but it was nowhere near as bad as this. Also, the structure of the story and the pacing of the dialogue can be really odd.
Hey, Harry. Hello, I'm Ron Weasley. I'm in Gryffindor too.
Dude, I know, we sat next to each other on the boat. And the train too, I guess, but that's never shown. And we literally just sat through the sorting hat ceremony.
That prefect's Percy, my other brother. How many brothers have you got? Too many.
My name's Hermione Granger, by the way. And you are?
Ron Weasley.
Pleasure. You've got something on your nose.
Huh?
You must be Harry Potter.
Why are you all talking like this? Is it due to a sugar high on the train? Slow down! The layout of Hogwarts hasn't really changed much, so if you're familiar with Chamber of Secrets, you'll feel right at home here. However, the developers have done a bit of work to make exploring Hogwarts a bit more seamless. You'll come across less loading screens this time, as the maps will load underneath this animation of Harry walking through the door. The time it takes to load each section is also substantially shorter. These are both from the same area, and yet the Chamber of Secrets clip still has another 8 seconds left. When you do hit a loading screen, you at least get a more useful progress bar, since it actually gives you a rough idea on how far it's got left to go. The Chamber of Secrets one would just bounce back and forth and mess with my emotions. We go up to the common room to try and visit Fred and George, and we see that the sneaking mechanic is back. Thankfully though, there's a lot less of them in this game, but the sections that do have them are somehow more infuriating than they were before. Percy now has the hearing of a bat, since anything other than sneaking will have him pounce on you instantly. And I get that's sort of the point, but even if you enter a basic walk cycle for a fraction of a second, he'll immediately chase you. This wasn't an issue in Chamber of Secrets. As long as you weren't sprinting, you were totally fine. To add insult to injury, when I exited the shop, I expected Percy to be on a different patrol path, which I'm pretty sure the last game did. So imagine my surprise when he's standing right in front of me the moment I get out. There was absolutely no chance I could have seen him there, especially since there's a limited view out of the portrait hole. So now I'm having to stand here waiting to get a glimpse of him before I can exit. You do get the opportunity to use the invisibility cloak later on, but it doesn't make much of a difference. How can this cloak, the best cloak on earth, the cloak that was taken from Death himself and is immune to magic, be foiled by a sleep-deprived student? Oh, and you can only use it when the story requires it, which makes Harry look like a complete moron whenever he's trying to sneak past Percy. You're not that far away from your room, man! Go and get the cloak! As for the shop itself, there's the usual items like stink pellets, dung bombs, wizard cards, and a larger beanbag. But once you buy these cards, they don't get restocked the next day. At least, they didn't for me. Meaning that once I bought these, the shop, and by extension the beans, were essentially useless. Of course, you can still buy the stink pellets and dung bombs, which are used to distract prefects. A mechanic that I didn't talk about in my last review, so I think it's time I addressed that. I've replayed these games multiple times, and at no point did I ever feel the need to use these. And from what I've gathered, I'm not the only one. So, why is that? While the game tells you what they do, you're never given the opportunity to test the mechanic before making a purchase. 9 times out of 10, players are going to prioritise buying cards, since Harry's health will increase for every 10 you collect. Or they'll get the larger beanbag. So you are asking them to gamble the beans they have for something that may or may not be useful. It also doesn't help that they are stupidly expensive. Despite being advertised as a pack, you have to shell out 20 beans just to gain 1 stink pellet or 1 dung bomb, and the moment you purchase one, it disappears off the shelf until your next visit. This means you have to be incredibly careful not to waste them, especially since if you use one and get caught, it won't appear back in your inventory when the game reloads. It's also strange that although these are 2 different items, they behave almost exactly the same, the only difference being that the dung bombs require you to cast Flipendo in order to activate them. Something the game doesn't tell you. I remember trying them for the first time on this prefect. I threw the first one thinking he would go and investigate before it would go off. Then I figured I threw it too far away and kept trying to get it as close as possible. If I was a smart man, I would have looked up what to do before emptying my supply. Oh well. Now there is the potential to gain these items in the mystery chest, which only costs 10 beans, but there's a chance you'll end up with a health item instead, which you might not need. Speaking of chests, there are now 2 variations of them scattered around the castle. The small brown ones will contain pumpkin pasties or cauldron cakes, while these larger gold ones contain wizard cards. This is good because in Chamber of Secrets, the chests all looked the same, which meant if you were at full health, you could potentially waste an item while hunting for cards. Separating the 2 means you can manage your health more efficiently, and this is even more important when you realise that the chests don't restock if you die. The wizard cards have also had a few tweaks. Now you can come across multi-packs and potentially get duplicate cards which can then be traded with other students. I should have nothing more to add to that, but unfortunately, I do, because like the beans, they made it annoying. Literally every time you pick up a card, the game will try to open up the Folio Magi, which means you have to spam the X button to get out of it as quickly as possible. I just shouldn't have to do that! Trading can also be a bit laborious if you're trying to get rid of a lot of cards. Flicking through the book takes about a second for every page, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but here's the thing. You gotta flick through to find where your dupes are, and then when you've selected one to trade, it takes you to another page to view the cards you will be receiving. This gets really old if you have a lot of dupes in, say, pages 1 to 3, and it keeps taking you to pages 9 to 10. So now I have to flick back and forth and back and forth. I'm not exaggerating when I say that it took me about 5 minutes just to shift all of these. I'm playing the clip at 4 times speed and I'm not even close to the end yet. The next morning we make our way to potions class and bump into McGonagall in the main hall, where she explains the Hogwarts houses. That doesn't make any sense. Why are you telling us this now? Shouldn't you have done this at the sorting ceremony? How can Harry say,
Not Slytherin. Not Slytherin.
if he doesn't even know what a Slytherin is? Our first potions class consists of, well, nothing really. He just tells us to collect ingredients for the next lesson, then dismisses everyone. Even Harry's like, mate, seriously? There's nothing for us to brew a potion in here? As for the other classes, they're a bit of a mixed bag. For starters, all the spells you learn are exactly the same as in Chamber of Secrets. Did Harry get amnesia over the summer holidays? The only new spell you learn is Spongify, which is used to catapult Harry into the air. They also added one extra use for Lumos, which is to create these light paths, a bit like the PC and PS1 versions. This left me feeling disappointed as I pretty much knew what to expect, and part of the excitement comes from learning new spells and using them to unlock more of the castle. The classes themselves play out as they did before. You go in, find the spell, and use it to make your way back out. Although this time, there are challenge shields scattered around. The more you collect, the more house points you'll gain. The designs of the rooms have had a significant upgrade. A lot of the classes in Chamber of Secrets looked like they were based off the same layout. Here, they all feel very distinct, which makes it a lot more interesting to explore. However, I do think they suffer from the same problem as the previous game, which is that the rooms feel disconnected from the rest of the castle. That's just a personal gripe, but again, the PC game's done a good job of making everything feel more consistent and less dangerous. I mean, Hogwarts was dangerous enough without throwing lava rooms into the mix. The gargoyle bosses in Chamber of Secrets have also been completely removed, probably since we no longer have Expelliarmus. While this should feel like an improvement, the boss fights we do end up with are so dull. It basically boils down to using Lumos to get rid of ghosts and guy trashes, and they take forever to get rid of. They are also so overused to the point it's not even funny. Is one of the school's entry requirements to be a professional exorcist? Then you have the troll and venomous tentacula fights. The trolls are particularly annoying since you have to get them to hit these Spongify tiles. Even though trolls are supposed to be stupid, these ones seem smart enough not to do that most of the time. The venomous tentacula are also a bit tedious. Sometimes the target button has trouble locking onto the stems, and tapping Defendo causes the spell to fail. So you have to hold it for a short period of time, meaning Harry will move a little slower and be more open to attack. Now, what about exploring the rest of the castle? Well, if you've played Chamber of Secrets, there's nothing you haven't already seen. The layout of the castle is exactly the same, which I wouldn't have minded if they just added a few things to keep you on your toes. For example, I mentioned in the last video that there were quite a few doors that led to nowhere, and I kind of assumed the developers intended on having more rooms, but ran out of time. However, those rooms are still locked. Do you know what would be better than telling me what's behind the door? Showing me what's behind the door! As for the rooms you can explore, chests are now hidden until you complete a little puzzle, and I'm really glad they did this. One of my gripes with Chamber of Secrets was that the chests were just sitting there. Sure, sometimes you needed a specific spell to unlock them, but it was still extremely underwhelming. Hiding them makes exploring more interesting, especially if you were already familiar with the castle's layout. Sadly, it seems most of these puzzles consist of smash all the jars, or defeat all the enemies, or find the Flipendo switch hiding behind the curtain. I mean, it's fine, but I would have liked to have seen more elaborate puzzles. Of course, the PC version didn't exactly require a lot of brain power, especially since Harry chooses the correct spell for you. But I think what makes that more fun is seeing all the secret passages unlock. It makes you more excited to explore. Just having a chest appear isn't exactly riveting, so to compensate for that, I think creating more intricate puzzles would keep the players more engaged. Flying is back, which gives me the opportunity to correct a mistake I made in the Chamber of Secrets video. I said that you couldn't fly around the castle in the Xbox and GameCube ports. But it turns out you can. In my defense, the fast travel points led me to believe that this wasn't possible. That being said, it's still a lesser version, since there aren't any chests or minigames to find. The only thing you can do is fly through these rings, which will get you more beans. Philosopher's Stone, on the other hand, has the same flying across all 3 platforms. Unfortunately, the grounds feel empty in comparison to the PlayStation 2's Chamber of Secrets. I couldn't find any minigames or puzzles. The only thing I could find was this chest in the boathouse. There might be more secrets that I'm not aware of, but if there's nothing to catch your eye, the grounds feel like a barren wasteland, and it doesn't really encourage me to explore. Eventually, you'll have collected the potion ingredients for Snape's class, which leads me to the potion mechanic. Now, I thought this was really well done in the last game, so naturally, they f***ed it up! How? Well, for starters, you can't collect vials throughout the game. They just appear in your inventory after Snape teaches you a potion. The first one is for the Wiggenweld potion, which doesn't happen till halfway through the game, and the second one is for the antidote to common poisons. Also, see how I have this empty vial here? Well, I would love to fill it with some Wiggenweld, but the game won't let me. That's because this vial is reserved for the antidote, and the antidote alone, which can only be used at the Devil's Snare boss. I mean, there's a few problems here. Despite being called Devil's Snare, it's literally just a larger venomous tentacula. It doesn't even get a separate category in the Folio Bruti. Why am I bringing this up? Well, the Folio Bruti mentions that venomous tentacula has a poisonous bite that requires an antidote. That's fine, except that never happens in any of the other encounters. 2. The moment you get poisoned, Harry will automatically take the antidote. Why is this a problem? Well, I wasn't expecting it for starters, so the moment I accidentally took a hit, the antidote got wasted. And it's not like drinking it makes you immune from being poisoned again. And 3. The poison's effect wears off the moment you deal damage anyway, so what is the point of this potion? After catching the key and playing chess, it's time to face Voldemort and Quirrell, or as I like to call them, Qualdemort. This consists of, and I am not joking, more ghosts. Not exactly the smartest way to get rid of Harry, is it? I mean, these things are literally in the school curriculum. Once you get them out of the way, it's time for a little one-on-one. What you're supposed to do here is stand on the correct side of the mirror so a little proton stream bursts out. This allows Harry to take the blast, although you'll still need to move out the way of these boulders. I don't know why, but I find it amusing when Voldy says,
Wingardium Leviosa!
Like, that's a first-year level spell, my dude. Surely a famous dark wizard knows some cooler spells than that. Once you absorb the blast, you'll get this time window where you can bounce the spell back. If you activate it too soon or too late, you'll get stunned. Harry commits his first murder, Dumbledore shows favoritism, you know the drill. I'm actually not sure if Gryffindor can lose in this game. I mean, I skipped the side quests and didn't bother going back for the missed shields. And I still won! So, with all that being said, do I think this game is any good? I mean, if you've sat through the whole video and thought the answer would be yes, I'm loving your optimism, but no. No, I do not. Perhaps I'm being overly critical because I jumped straight from Chamber of Secrets into this, but as I said before, this is one of the few Potter games I never finished growing up, so even back then I didn't enjoy it. I just couldn't articulate why. It just feels like more of the same, and while there are definitely some improvements, they are very minor. Had I not known the history behind the game, and if my play order had been reversed, there's a chance I'd have a different view. But, of course, that's just my opinion, and I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Did you love the game? Did you hate the game? Did you play this before or after Chamber of Secrets? And did you know which one came first? Until then, I will see you in the next video, where I'll be looking at Prisoner of Azkaban on the PC.